Oh, yeah, Verstappen. Oh, yeah, Verstappen. It's just the change. Wow.
So this is the puberty episode.
Oh my God, finally my testicles have descended. All right. Ahoy hoy and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. I'm Shaun, Sporty Spice Polidano, and joining me as always, it's the spicy ginger spice himself, Aaron Best. How are you today, Aaron?
Well, look, after 3 weeks of constant podcast editing during this triple header, I reckon I'm a bit more scary spice at the moment. But before I ask how you are, I would also like to remind you that there is a reason that the Sporty Spice one is the only one of them without a fella.
Bitch, please. But here for the Bender Like Beckham reference. Deep motherfucking cunt. I'm ready to slam it to the left, shake it to the right, shake it to the front, go round. I'm not really a singer, but I live. We have a fantastic show that is spicier than the Spice World movie. Plus, we have our amazing Let's Talk sister in the house today.
We do. This week's race mate is a returning guest. We thought it was best to bring her back for this week's overrated episode to admit to the faux pas she made in her first appearance. She's our favourite British expat gym junkie, and as a Lewis Hamilton fangirl, I am sure she has some very strong feelings about this week's Grand Prix. Please welcome back to the garage, friend of the pod, Jodie.
Hello again, everyone. I'm back.
You!
Or as I should say, the bitch is back.
Did we just get a receipt title that just says bitches back, maybe?
Yeah, I'll get a little sticker that we can put on the microphone.
Yes. Now, Jodie, clearly I themed this week's episode around the Spice Girls. Who was your favourite Spice Girl?
Now, listen, I think we can all agree Posh is just out of this world iconic. We all love the Beckhams, hence your reference earlier. But for me, I was always Mel B. I am Scary Spice. That leopard print outfit, can we just...
Have you got anything that's leopard print?
Problem is, it takes a special sort of someone to pull that off, and I'm not Mel B.
Yeah, but I reckon we can make it happen.
I do have a leopard print sports bra for the gym that I sometimes get out occasionally if I'm feeling raunchy on the day.
I do, we know each other very well, so I can say this. I do feel like skinny bitch Jodie from 5 years ago probably couldn't pull off leopard print, but you now have some pretty decent curves thanks to the gym, so I reckon you could
Thank
rock
you,
it.
RTB. Thank you, Ryan. Alison and the crew.
Non-sponsored, pay me $10. Now, if you had to be a spice or herb, what spice would you be?
I would have to say garlic.
Why?
You can never have too much garlic in any food. Garlic is the OG. And also in another life, I would be a vampire. And the whole vampires can't have garlic, that's fraud. They love it.
How do you know this?
In all my books.
What books?
The smut books.
Smut? What?
The smut books?
Shout out to you, Akatar, Sarah J. Maas.
Is this some Twilight bullshit? What?
You read it, they tell you can have garlic.
But... Well, maybe you're one of those Italian vampires that just needs garlic in their life.
I'd say so.
You know what? Well, okay, you're going to be garlic. Aaron, what spice would you be?
Following the same vein of because garlic is definitely a measure with your heart kind of object in the kitchen.
Measure with your heart?
Yeah, if it says 3 cloves of garlic, you stop when you feel like you've got enough garlic in the pot. 3 cloves of garlic easily turns into 6 or 7 for me.
I just never heard that as a saying.
You take it with a pinch of salt.
Same as curry powder and true blue Australian Keen's curry powder. That is measure with your heart. If it says 1 tablespoon, anything close to half the jar is fine.
Hashtag sponsor content. Hashtag sponsor.
Good old Aussie Keen's curry powder. That's it. You measure with your heart. You put into the recipe what you think. You don't have to read what's in the actual recipe. You put in what you feel in your heart is the appropriate amount to add to the pot.
Wow. Well, I will be allspice because I'm all man you'll ever need. Yeah. No! No.
Also, for that bit, you need to edit out the Akatar reference. Keep in Sarah J. Maas, but Akatar's more about the fays and the fairies. we want Crescent City. Now, Crescent City.
What is...
No,
Did you say
I'm now leaving that in, and then I'm leaving in you saying we need to remove that because it's more about the fays and the fairies.
No, but also what's Crescent Sissy?
Crescent City is another novel by Sarah J. Maas, but that's got every magical being.
You are aware we're talking about books, yeah?
Yeah, no wonder I'm not smart at this part. What is reading? I've only gotten halfway through the Gunther novel thing.
See, that's where we differ. You like to read the autobiographies. I like the fiction. Take me out of my life for a few minutes.
Yeah,
I'm all fiction.
Yeah.
And vampires eating garlic.
Oh, vampires. They can have garlic and they can be around crosses.
This is fucking hilarious.
So going back to where we were. Jodie, as I mentioned during my intro of you have something you have to admit to and an apology to issue to your dad. Before I hand it over to you, I am going to warn you that I'm going to have a somber backing track playing while you have your little moment, just to give it a little bit more gravitas.
Perfect.
Over to you.
From the top, Dad, I will apologise to you. I already have over the phone, but I will apologise live now on the podcast for getting it so wrong. So I had a conversation with my dad, which essentially I believe that he said that he thought Silverstone was an overrated track. Now, when I told him that podcast came out, he was so excited. Him and his work colleague were listening at the speaker at the building site. I get a text and he says, "Listening now, done 12 minutes so far, you are amazing. However, every British motorsport person is going to hate me after the Silverstone is an overrated track comment," laughing face. I said, "Well, it's not what you said." He said, "Technically, I meant from a being there watching perspectively. The actual track itself has arguably the best corners anywhere." And he's done that face with a person slapping themselves in the face. So, Dad, my apologies. What he meant, everyone, was because of where you're stationed, sitting, watching the track as someone physically in the stands, it's not as good as a view as some of the other tracks that you pay to go and see. But little old me thought he meant as a track in general. So, yeah, love you, Dad.
At least it was a nice message from your dad. You know, just kind of like a little tap on the snout.
And, you know, he also sent one after that, which basically said, you know, Aaron was taking the mick out of me last time, saying how posh I was when I read the monologue of my debut for Lewis Hamilton. Yeah. Well, he said I sounded very much like my mum in that, and it was lovely to hear.
That's nice.
My mum is very posh. She's very well spoken.
I'm now looking forward to what you're going to have to apologise for on this episode. We know you. You'll make a mistake.
I absolutely will. It's coming, isn't it?
Alrighty. Well, let's become Saturday Night Divas and let's get talking about the 2024 British Grand Prix at Silverstone.
This week was the final race of the 3-week triple header and also marks the halfway point in the 2024 season. Silverstone is a standard race weekend, which means that we get 3 free practice sessions, a 3-part qualifying session, and then the Grand Prix on the Sunday. This weekend, we saw 3 promising Formula 2 drivers get the chance to shine in free practice 1. Oliver Behrman took the wheel for Haas, getting a feel for the seat that he's going to be in next year. Isaac Hadjar jumped into the driver's seat for Red Bull, and Franco Colapinto got into a Williams. Additionally, we had the junior driver Jack Doohan participating in the session for Alpine. It is always thrilling to see some fresh faces and potential future stars get out on the track. But what sets Formula 2 apart from Formula 1? Well, one of the key differences is the cars. In Formula 2, all teams drive the same car supplied by Dallara with a Mechachrome engine and Pirelli tyres. This standardization levels the playing field, meaning that the success in Formula 2 is more about the skill of the driver rather than the power and technological advancements of the car. It's pure, unadulterated racing talent on display. By contrast, Formula 1 teams design and build their own cars, leading to significant differences in performance, innovation, and strategy. The development race in Formula 1 is intense, with teams constantly pushing the boundaries of technology and aerodynamics. This makes F1 not only a battle of the drivers, but also the engineering prowess and financial muscle of the teams. Formula 2 is often seen as the unofficial stepping stone for a Formula 1 seat. Many current F1 stars, including Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, and George Russell, honed their skills in F2 before making the leap to the pinnacle of motorsport in F1. The series provides invaluable experience teaching young drivers about racecraft, tyre management, and the pressures of competing at a high level both on and off the track. While Formula 2 and Formula 1 share the same passion for speed and competition, they operate in very different environments. Even their qualifying and race formats are really quite distinct. At the end of the day, Formula 2 is about showcasing driver talent in identical machinery, while Formula 1 combines driver skill with cutting-edge technology and team strategy. It's this dynamic interplay that makes the journey from F2 to F1 so fascinating to watch.
Who do you think you are? Some kind of F1 star? Let's catch you all up to speed on the action that occurred on the weekend. We kicked off the weekend with an exciting first free practice session where we saw 4 fresh faces making their debut. The session wasn't without its incidents though, with Tsunoda causing a red flag when his RB went into the gravel. Despite some hydraulic issues with Piastri's car, both McLarens managed to appear in the top 3, showing strong pace early on. In FP2, with all the regular drivers back in their cars and the rain threatening, the session started off quickly. Once again, the McLarens topped the timesheets, continuing their strong form. The Ferrari drivers, on the other hand, seemed to be struggling with both the track conditions and their car setup, setting the stage for a challenging weekend. FP3 brought the rain and with it some standout performances. The 2 Mercedes drivers shone, with Russell leading Hamilton by a small margin. Slippery conditions they tested the drivers, and even Max Verstappen had a moment completing a dramatic 360-degree spin in the middle of the track. Gasly found himself in the gravel, causing yet another red flag. A less than stellar start to what will be a very painful weekend in that Alpine. Qualifying saw Russell continue with his strong form, clinching the top spot ahead of Hamilton and Norris. It's the first time we've had a British top 3 at the British GP. That was a tongue twister. It was a tough session though for Red Bull, with both cars finding the gravel in Q1, ending Perez's session and damaging Verstappen's car. The surprises didn't stop there. Leclerc was eliminated in Q2, leaving room for Hülkenberg to impress with a P6 finish. The race itself was a spectacular showcase of motorsport, with McLaren, Mercedes and Verstappen battling out for the top spot at various points of the race. But it all came down to strategic decisions in the changing weather conditions. Mercedes made the better calls, allowing Hamilton to take an emotional and record-breaking 9th win at Silverstone. Verstappen fought valiantly against his qualifying damage to finish second, with Norris rounding out the podium. Among the top teams, Russell had to retire his car, and Leclerc struggled at the back of the grid due to poor strategic decisions. Meanwhile, Perez couldn't recover from his poor qualifying result. Hülkenberg maintained his impressive 6th position, and the Williams team looked strong with finishes in P9 and P11. Unfortunately, Gasly suffered significant problems with his Alpine and didn't even start after the formation lap. Off the track, there were some intriguing developments. Haas has confirmed their first driver of 2025, Oliver Bierman, woohoo! And Perez's poor form is throwing some more spanners into the driver market, and Red Bull's Constructors' Championship hopes with rumours that he'll be replaced by Liam Lawson or even an improving Ricciardo during the summer break. We also had some one-off liveries on the Williams and the Red Bulls. So much to discuss this weekend. Jodie, I think there's something kind of funny happening at Ferrari this week. Let's start by discussing what happened with Leclerc.
The mind baffles. The mind absolutely baffles. I mean, Sainz did well.
He did do very well,
In
actually.
fairness to him, there must have been something in the air for Leclerc.
They kind of did the opposite of what they did with Montreal, where they put him on inters at one point and he didn't need to be, as opposed to Montreal where they put him on slicks and it was not the right tyre to be on.
Yeah, I'm also reading through news headlines and stuff that Ferrari also returned back to their Imola spec. So that's how many races ago now? Because I was there for that and that feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, well, that would have been mid-May, so it's at least a month and a bit.
So can you imagine now being a month and a bit behind everybody else in terms of developments? That's going to impact Ferrari and their performance. But also with Leclerc, strategic decisions and that pit wall, the clowns were again out. It was just silly.
Yeah, I think it comes down a lot to the fact that the team just are not very good at making the right decisions at this point. You're seeing very clearly the difference between teams like Mercedes and Red Bull who are used to winning at the moment, and so they're making decisions that they know will be winning decisions, versus Ferrari and McLaren who just are not confident enough to be able to make those winning decisions yet. They don't know the right decision to make because they're not used to being at the front of the pack.
It's almost as if they haven't been contenders for a while, so they've not had to use that kind of skill set.
Yeah, and realistically, They haven't. They haven't been contenders for a long time. So over 10 years for both teams, I think.
It has been the Mercedes and the Red Bull show for a number of years, so it makes sense there. Jodie, are you going to be getting yourself ready and hyped up for the sheer disappointment that Ferrari will continually bring you? But it does for me.
See, I'm not ready for it. I've just ordered, as you saw me come in the studio today, my Ferrari jacket here, ready to go. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh God, what am I in for?
It does look stunning though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it looks great.
And at the end of the day, it could be worse. You could have signed a multi-year contract with Ferrari.
And it could be worse. It's not like it's Alpine.
Oh!
That too.
Shade.
Do we feel like Ferrari can make any sort of inroads for the remainder of the season?
I think they can. I think they've got the ability to do so. They just have to, at the end of the day, be better. Like, we know that they can win. We know that they've got drivers that can win. Both Charles and Sainz have won this season. So they just have to work on the mistakes that they're making. Same as McLaren. They've got a car that can win. If they stop making silly little mistakes, then they can be a contender.
It's also a pattern as well with Ferrari. They always start the season relatively well, and we've seen it over the past few years, it just gets worse as it progresses.
I was hoping that, thinking back on when Ferrari was winning, which was Monaco ages ago, but I was also hoping it was the same time where they splashed those HP logos onto the bloody car, and I was going to say that was the cause of the decline, but no, that was also earlier before Monaco, so can't say the blue on the Ferrari is actually killing their vibe.
I'm still disappointed that we didn't get a blue car.
Oh, well, unfortunate. But let's talk about more strategic decisions impacting teams. McLaren.
Oof.
Where did we go from there?
It all went downhill for them when, to save 3 seconds by not double stacking Piastri, they lost 20 seconds on a really shit lap. I think that possibly kind of got under their skin a little bit and they started to panic. You've got Norris also making decisions based purely on what Hamilton is doing in front of him. He's not listening to the race engineers. And so they're kind of, again, not used to having to make race winning strategies. They're not used to being at the front. So the pressure's possibly getting to them a little bit and they're falling over because of it.
I was very impressed with the speed of the car going down that DRS, both of them being able to overtake Verstappen. Incredible.
It wasn't just Verstappen. You know, when the rain started coming down too, they were still competitive on those medium tyres to then overtake both of those Mercedes. Like, they were on fire.
They really were.
Well, the front of the pack did stay out, even in face of the rain coming down, and they all still performed really, really well, even though you watched them. And in particular, you saw there were a couple of overtakes of Piastri and you could just see that the car was just really difficult for him to control. Like, there were just little twitches and little slides as he exited a corner, but he was still getting those overtakes done and in a really clean way. Like, there wasn't contact, even though he was inches away and his car was really glitchy because of the rain.
And I think it's just typical as well, isn't it? Those times that you need the pits to be particularly to the par and fast, you need that 2-3 second one. It was 4.5, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was also Lando's kind of fault for coming in too hot too, so he was off his mark.
That was a really interesting pit stop, I think, because as he was approaching it, I remember saying to you as we were watching it, Shaun, as he was approaching it, you saw the Ferrari team coming out to get ready for their pit stop. And they did look like they were like quite in the way of his line into the McLaren pit stop. And he looked like he did have to avoid them a little bit, then came in too hot, then he aquaplaned into the stop. And the poor guy with the jack, he stopped the car. The car didn't stop itself. The car slid into him and the jack guy stopped it.
Oh, there we go. You know, getting paid for the job that he's supposed to do, stopping cars.
And realistically, he works 3 seconds some races, 6 seconds others, 24 races in a season. He works for a total of about a minute a year.
Yeah, but great job. Great job. If I want to get hit by a car, I want to go and do that.
And while we're talking about McLaren, can we just point out how awful those shoeies were on stage. I'm sorry, did anything actually go in either one of their mouths? Because I really don't think it did.
No, they kind of just poured the shoe over their faces. The best part was that then Oscar gets onto Instagram and he's like, so if anyone has a spare size 8 left shoe, that would be really great right now.
Because he lost. It was his shoe.
Because he's lost his shoe. He's filled it with beer or whatever they had. And did the shoey win it?
It was poor form coming from two queens that know how to shoey. Actually, and with a clog, mind you, too.
And not a drip went down us.
Oh, not a drip.
I'm surprised neither of you had to get tested after that.
Hey, we were the ones that weren't sick. You were the one that was sick and you were the only one who didn't do it out the clog.
Aha! The clog gave us life.
Made us immune.
Clog is life. Clog is life. That was a fun day.
Oh, take us back.
Take us back to the old GP.
Take us back.
I can understand why Norris was so disappointed, but it's not like it was bad luck this week, which is probably what made it a lot worse. It wasn't a safety car or this or that kind of ruined the race for them. This is one that they purely lost on ability.
And he was visibly, well, I thought, distraught. Like, I think it was in the post-race, so just after the race, and they then do the podium. After that, blank face. Couldn't say much. Inward thoughts and stuff. And I was like, oh.
I do think it's almost, because it's the British Grand Prix, I think the British drivers, like you would if it's your home Grand Prix, like Checo, you know, you always put more pressure on yourself. And I think it means so much. And you could see that all over his face. And at least in the post interview, he did say, you know, it doesn't matter. He still thought Lewis would have won, even if they got the tyres right. There was a few issues.
Lewis just was so impressive, even getting onto the softs. And it was a used set of softs that he had to go on to because that's all he had left. And he then made them work. He performed so well to get to the end of that race the way he did.
Just skills. That boy oozes skills. It's amazing to watch him race.
And now that he's got a car that can compete again, he's got a car at the front of the pack, and we're seeing once again his skill show. Like, you kind of have to look back at the last couple of years and go, imagine that if he wasn't as good a driver as he is, where Mercedes would be right now, because they didn't have a car that was competitive. They've given him a car that he can win in again, and he's winning again. And Russell is performing really well as well through qualifying. So they're back in top form, which is really great to see. They've got another year of these technical regulations. So hopefully they can continue to perform the second half of this year and into next year.
I'm so happy for Toto as well. Yeah. I love it when he's happy. And, you know, he was happy.
We've gotten a fair few excited Toto moments the last couple of races, which has been really good. I did love just the pure Lewis can do whatever he wants after he won moment where they're like, he stops in the track, gets a flag from the marshals. He runs out into the track and like starts waving and cheering with the crowd. And everyone was just like, nah, he's royalty. He can do what he likes.
Not Lewis crowd surfing.
Oh, yeah, I did see that one. Being a big Lewis fan, like, how was your, I don't know, not battle, but your experience going through the lull of, 2021, going through the lull of in these new regs and not being competitive? Did your fanship ever die or change?
No, it never has. I've always loved Lewis. I think even over Lando and any British driver, even over George, Lewis has always held such a special place in my heart because that's who my dad has supported, and I just kind of went along with that train. It never faltered, but obviously you could see he was distraught, and you could see after that 2021 last race, it was, seeing him sat down with his dad in that room with his head in his hands and not having a win since that season, you could see it was breaking him. And it would make anybody doubt themselves. It's something that you get up every day for and you train so hard for, all your effort, all your energy to not actually get what you're wanting to achieve out of it. It must have been so frustrating. So no, all of us Lewis fans, we stood by him and it's so great to see. And I don't think there was a single person there that wasn't happy for him.
I was crying.
I loved the second he pulled up, George was there and it's like, he did it. And then we had him with his family and him with the team.
That's the part I cried was
crowd.
And him on the radio when you could hear George and screaming and saying, you've done it. And you could hear him just saying how much it means to him. Again, Lewis, thanking the fans. You know, he really does appreciate the people that have got him where he is.
I do like the fact that I reckon strategically left his helmet on just a little bit longer, just because he was like, you could hear him crying on the outlap. And when he finally got back to Parc Ferme, he kept his helmet on, hugged his dad with his helmet on, and you could tell that he was still crying. And so he just wanted to keep the helmet on just that little bit longer.
And he admitted he's never cried after a race before. And even then he said during an interview, I can't stop crying. You know, you could just see how much it means to him. And Max, I mean, respect to Max, I must say, he was great too. And even he was happy for Lewis. And I think that just speaks volumes because they have been good rivals for years now.
I really enjoyed in the post-race interviews the differences that we had in each of the three drivers. So we had, as Shaun said, Norris really quite defeated, and we had Lewis really so emotional and so happy. But we had Max so excited. He was so happy with getting P2 because he didn't think he would be able to do it. He was so happy with the excitement that he had during the race and the way he raced. Like, it was a completely different person to the one that we would see in post-race interviews 12 months ago, where he was just kind of, oh yeah, we had a good race today and we managed to pull ahead and a good race strategy and it is what it is. We won, woohoo, yay. And now we've got his voice is inflecting and he's excited and he's like, yeah, so it was a really great race and I didn't think we'd get there, but we managed to do this. And then there was a couple of really close overtakes and there was this and all this. And it's really good to see Max enjoying racing as well again, because he's got competition. Obviously, he would still want to win every race, but he's getting to race again, and I think he's enjoying it.
And this is racing. This is Formula One, and we are all finally getting to see some excitement, and people are wanting to watch the race and getting up. I wouldn't mind getting up early for a race in this time zone if I knew it was going to be a good one and exciting.
At one point in the first half of the race, you could be forgiven for going, it could go to any one of these five, being the two McLarens, the two Mercedes and Max. Like, any one of the five could win this right now. You wouldn't know. And it came down to key decisions and moments of opportunity taken and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately for Russell, a retirement and that sort of thing.
Red Bull knows how to do strategy. And that clearly shows that those two teams, Mercedes and Red Bull, with all their history and all that winning knowledge. And I think that's also coming down to Max is a killer driver, knows those instincts, knows when to go and pit, change things up. But that team was onto it the entire time.
Credit to Max. He is such a great driver and he is doing absolute great things with a car now that isn't so overpowered. I do feel for him that he's now having to work for it and he's having to work quite hard. And he's come out saying, like, I'm winning or I'm getting close to winning each race because I'm driving at more than 100% of my ability. He goes, that's not sustainable. Red Bull need to pull their finger out if they want me to keep winning.
Well, let's talk about Perez a little bit. So out at Q1, but spun out, rookie.
Spun out into the gravel.
Again, I wasn't too sure if it was like, let's test if Inters are the right tyre at such an early stage to then feed information to Max. Like, why do they then put him on Inters? Similar with Leclerc. Why were they even on Inters? Didn't do much.
No, he's just not performing. And that's why everyone's now talking about what's going to happen, because
It's in his contract.
It's in his contract that he must not be more than 100 points behind Max at summer break. He went into the British Grand Prix 116 points behind, and now he is 140-ish points behind.
So
It's not looking good for Perez.
yeah.
So at this point, unless Max DNFs the next two races and Perez pulls his finger out, he is not going to be meeting his contractual obligations come summer break because he only got two races. And now it's kind of a decision for Red Bull of, okay, well, do we put Daniel back into Red Bull because he's had an improvement the last couple of races? Or do we leave Daniel at RB and put Liam into the Red Bull and see how he goes?
Or bring Carlos in.
Or try and get Carlos.
360.
Yeah.
But Carlos, they still have a bigger issue. Like, if they bring Daniel, everything's kind of gravy for them if Daniel performs. If they bring Liam, everything's gravy if Liam performs. If they bring Sainz, they also get Carlos Sainz Sr. And Jos Verstappen and Carlos Sainz Sr. were a problem back in the AlphaTauri days.
Sometimes dads just need to cool their jets.
The drama.
Yeah.
The tea.
Speaking of dads, you did get to see Oliver Behrman's dad in the garage during FP1.
Oh, I missed that.
He's at every race. They even made a comment saying that he will not miss a race.
Aw.
Do you know
Right.
what's made me laugh there? You said Oliver Behrman. You said Oliver Behrman.
Yeah, it's the Aussie in us. I say Behrman sometimes as well.
It's Behrman.
Barman? Did he used to hunt bears? Is that how he got his last
It's like
name?
how you Aussies say yogurt. It's yogurt.
No, it's
No, it's
yogurt.
definitely
Oh,
not yogurt.
please,
Nah.
please.
Oh, how do you say water?
Water.
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 Nah, water.
Water.
No, at
Water.
least she pronounces the T.
No, you don't do that. Anyway, we're getting
No,
off
we,
track.
we pronounce it differently. We pronounce water.
Water.
Yeah, but the reason that there are reels about it for English is because English people pronounce it W-A-E-R, water.
They go, do you want a bottle of water,
Water.
mate?
Yeah, well.
I once had a boyfriend who
We are so off topic here. I love it.
No, I'm laughing at the fact he once had a boyfriend.
Oh.
I once had a boyfriend who I was sitting at home with my dad, and my dad said something along the lines of, "Oh, there's beer in the fridge if you want one." And my boyfriend looked at me really confused, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what?" He goes, "What did your dad just say?" I'm like, "He said there's beer in the fridge." He goes, "You mean there's a bear in the fridge?" And I'm like,
Oh, dear.
"No, that's just our accents."
Oh, you cutie pies, you Aussies. There's a reason I moved here.
Definitely not the sun here in Melbourne.
Every time I say his name, it changes from Oliver Behrman to Oliver Behrman. Like, I can't say it
I just
right.
had to bring it up. I'm sorry. It just made me laugh.
Nah, makes sense.
Carry on.
Makes sense. So, who do you reckon's going to then take Perez's spot? Shotgun, Aaron, who?
I reckon there's a really good chance that they'll give Liam the seat.
Shotgun, Jodie.
I think Danny Rick stands a chance because we all know how Horner feels about him.
Yeah.
I reckon he'll keep it up until this year.
If he doesn't get points in the next two races, they can't. They can't justify it, because if he doesn't get points in the next two races, they're now not only going to be competing for a driver's championship, but their constructors is almost certainly lost.
Yeah, because they've done it with Kvyat and everything before. I just don't know if it's going to then produce them the results they want. I think that Red Bull is very much compromised now. It's not the fastest thing out there. So I don't know if like getting Danny Rick is going to make things better instantly.
If Daniel can get P11 or P12 in the RB, that means that he's in the points for the Red Bull, and Perez is not,
Who is still underperforming against Tsunoda. So why wasn't Tsunoda then moved up?
because they don't like Tsunoda.
I know.
How can anyone dislike Yuki? His only dream in this life is to open a restaurant.
Which, has he? I think.
No, there was that meme that went around where they were asking everyone what they wanted to do, and Yuki was the only one who said something other than win a championship, and he wanted to open a restaurant.
Very cute. It was Drive to Survive, I think he mentioned that.
Is either Drive to Survive or it would have been Beyond the Grid.
Yeah.
I do love the Beyond the Grids. Oscar's great in Beyond the Grids because they asked, "What is your biggest fear?" And Oscar stands there and he's like, "Sharks. Like, they're scary." And then he stopped and goes, "Someone's going to answer something really like philosophical or something stupid, aren't they?" And then it cuts to Logan Sargent and he's like, "Not living up to my potential."
Oh, well.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a not bad segue. Sargent did well.
Yeah, impressed.
Impressed. And also the stats coming out even against Perez. Again, beautiful segues coming on through. He's technically outqualified Perez, I think, in 6 races. Stunning.
They've had a really good race for Williams this week.
Yes.
And we talked last week about the fact that they've gone on this big hiring spree. We've talked about the fact that they've managed to secure Albon for a long-term contract. There's now talks that they're making really good offers to Sainz to potentially get him. I think there's a lot of promise at Williams, and they could perform really, really well next year or the year after.
Yeah, I hope Sainz goes to Williams. I hope. I just don't know what he's even doing. He may just exit himself out by waiting this long, mind you too. So
And also a little quick whip-de-woo. Who do we think will get that second seat? Because they're the only one that didn't have 2 seats filled. And obviously now that we know Oliver Behrman's going there, Who do we think that second seat's going to?
I reckon they might try and get Valtteri or even Zhou
People are saying Ocon.
or Ocon. Yeah.
No, he needs to go. Oh, I've had enough.
Yeah, as Shaun mentioned during his race summary, with Oliver Behrman coming in, that means that there is at least one driver that will not be on the grid next year. Another round robin. Who do you think it's going to be?
Joe.
Zhou not on the grid?
I hope it's Ocon.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's...
That's also a dud question because we kind of all know that Sargent's not going to be on the grid.
Oh, nice segue.
Back to
Sargent. But there has been news, like James Vowles has basically said now that he's gone. They will be swapping him over. It's a matter of who now. So is it literally Kimi Antonelli coming in as the test driver during that period? Like who are they going to then get in?
They've got the rules changed for Kimi now, so he can drive even before August, which is obviously only a month away, but still.
I reckon Antonelli could be in with a chance of a Mercedes seat.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my thought process.
Yeah, get him in for Williams, do the 6 months, well, whatever, how long we've got left, and then move him up.
So that's the thing with Mercedes and Kimi is he is contracted, like properly contracted to Mercedes till at least 2025. So they can take their time courting Max, courting Sainz, courting whoever they want.
Get Lewis Hamilton back.
Get Lewis Hamilton back. Like that would be wild without the risk of missing out on Kimi. So realistically, if they wait until November to announce Kimi as their driver, there's no skin off their nose. They can do what they want.
Do they maybe Haas just keep Magnussen? He's done all right the entire season. You know, he's played the team game. Yes, he's gotten a lot of penalties and he's been quite aggressive. I remember you mentioning that, Aaron, in a couple of episodes.
He's straightened up a fair bit over the last couple of races.
But like, especially when you're getting a junior like Oliver Behrman in, having maybe Magnussen as a mentor, potentially, during maybe the first year, do you just keep K-Mag in?
Potentially. There's the seat available to him. It is interesting to see how well they're doing for a team that a few years ago we thought were easily bottom of the barrel, even behind Alpine.
And I mean, with K-Mag, all you have to do is look at that incredible save he did when he was coming around and the tyres went and he saved it, pulled it back in. I think that was great.
He's a really talented driver.
That was a lot of skill.
Yeah.
It was towards the end of the lap because the loss of control almost sent him into the pits, but he managed to keep it on the track. That was, really good.
My question, I think, with Haas comes down to, I think, leadership of that team. So AO comes on in, replacing Gunther. Do you reckon a new leader of Haas has made the biggest difference there?
Potentially, we don't know. We haven't heard a lot about what has happened at Haas, not quite as much as what we see from, like, there's lots of the race videos about Williams and what's happening in Williams and the changes that are happening in Williams. We don't get quite as much of this is what's happening behind the scenes at Haas, and we probably won't until Drive to Survive next year.
Yeah, because I think the standout for me was the fact that in qualifying, they were the fastest Ferrari-powered car. That in itself means that they're doing such a great job compared to their manufacturer friends and buddies Ferrari, which is kind of interesting and backwards for them. I don't know. Haas is interesting to watch. I said interesting to watch for Mercedes, and look where they ended up. So maybe they may even get some more points.
Well, they're kind of capitalizing on the fact that Aston are doing okay, but they're kind of sitting there in that sort of limbo land, and Sauber aren't anywhere. And Alpine, even though they're improving, they're still struggling with issues.
So Gasly had a penalty. So he was going to be back at the grid anyway, right? Because he changed most of the car. Is that it?
Pierre had a back of the grid penalty for exceeding the allotted power unit components. So he added the ICE, the internal combustion engine.
Yep.
So he took a new engine.
Newer engine, even the transmission blew.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drivers that exceeded their allocations for things already, and we're only halfway through the season.
I think Max is on his third already.
And Perez last week took a new gearbox, I think it was.
I wonder on how much, other than penalties, does that then cost the teams? But I assume it's all under the budget caps and everything like that. So It is what it is. Yeah, Gasly, and Alpine struggled this entire weekend, and to go and take a grid penalty to change that engine, and then to be done because of transmission issues after the formation lap. Telling of where Alpine is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for them.
Nothing shocks us at this point with Alpine, really, does it?
No, literally, their car could explode on the starting grid and we'd be like, oh, that tracks.
Aw, yeah, it tracks.
Saba isn't really doing anything. Same sort of deal. Like, we only really hear about them if something goes wrong. We haven't really got a lot of positive things to talk about, though.
I do have a positive.
Ooh.
The social media team, the marketing team are incredible.
They
That's
do
all I need to
really
say
well.
for that. They're fantastic.
What's one of the things you've loved recently?
There was a picture that the pair of them did, so Valtteri and Zhao did, where they jumped up and made like a shape, and they had it as their screensavers, and they were like taking pictures with fans and sending it around, and they'd zoom in on their phone. It was just a picture of them like making like a little diamond with their feet in the air. It was just brilliant.
Even like a few races ago, because Zhou brought his cat into the paddock around the same time that Leo was really popular. Zhou brought
What do you
his
mean
cat.
was? He still is.
He's no Roscoe.
They made an animated video game of Zhou skateboarding through the paddock to collect cats, and it was insane. Like, they're doing a lot to promote the team.
When in doubt, if your car's not doing well, step up the marketing and you're okay.
Williams did that at the start of the year with their social media. They went hard on Alex and Logan doing every viral trend.
Gross. And all I've got to say is then Daniel Ricciardo, marketing #1. Not doing much on the racetrack, but is doing another campaign for something else now.
I do actually like St. Hugo's as a winery, though. That's one of my favorites.
Do you know what I love? I love how the last time I was here in the studio, you were hating on Danny Rick as well. And it's continued.
I've had a love affair, I think, challenged. I still love him deep down.
Challenge is a better word, yes.
But yeah, it's just now, I think, to slide on Jacques Villeneuve's statement on the fact that he's focusing too much elsewhere. His head's not in the game. And you see it with drivers like Verstappen, Hamilton. Yes, they may have all their marketing duties, but it's not the be-all and end-all. I think Danny Rick might be doing a bit too much. And he's come out and said it. He just needs to stop.
But at the end of the day, they need the money. They need the sponsors. He wants the money, and he has a personality that can do it. Like, you're never going to see Max Verstappen doing as well in the Heineken ads or a winery ad because he can't be as cheeky as Ricciardo can. Your George Russells and your Lewis Hamiltons, they do an amazing watch ad or jewelry ad. Same with Leclerc. They do amazing high-end brand ads. But again, they're just not the kind of people that advertises Heineken 00.
Just give it to Signs and make him sing Smooth Operator whilst holding the Heineken. Win. Viral sensation.
Ask, he's a smooth operator.
Smooth Operator.
This is going to be a challenge for the auto-tune. Jumping back to your overrated track moment.
Yes.
I did love how big a spectacle Silverstone is with the camping that was happening. Like, it's kind of its own little festival that people can obviously camp and be there for 3 days on site. Whereas like for us, Australia, we don't have that. We've got you leave every day.
It's also where it's located, right? Like, how far away is Silverstone from
Oh, it's in the trek. But I also think we have to hand it to the Brits because come rain, come shine. And in the UK, we are used to rain. The vibes are there. You know, they will not give up. They will be there with a coat, with a whatever, in any weather, just to keep seeing the race through.
Oh, just the fact that we get a wet Grand Prix 2 weeks after midsummer.
It's just crazy. I don't actually think they've had much of a summer this year by the sounds of it at all.
No, they did have a heat wave a couple of weeks ago.
Did they?
They had 3 days over 24 degrees.
3 days. Stop
24
it.
degrees.
Wow.
My head hurts.
One thing that I loved particularly to watch as a viewer is sometimes we see some questionable celebrities that get to go into the VIP areas and the pits.
So many questions.
No hate, I would be there if I could, but it was so nice to see Jeremy Clarkson, there. We had Hammond there, like the Top Gear boys, the English motorsport lovers. And what I loved is in an interview before the race, Jeremy Clarkson said, if it rains, then someone old will win, Hamilton or Alonso. And he hit the nail on the head.
He really did. Yeah. Like, they obviously showed how skilled they are, particularly Lewis. Like, he knew exactly what to do. He knew exactly the right calls to make. He knew exactly how to drive and work his tires. It's understandable that he won because he is that skilled, and it makes sense. Yeah, you're going to see those experienced drivers. And you're right, it is nice to see celebrities that know what they're talking about.
And who actually enjoy the sport and understand it and actually are there because they want to be there, not just someone waving the flag for the sake of it. Again, if that was offered to me, I would do it.
I think I saw a headline with Jeremy Clarkson saying about where Nui was going to go. And he goes, I'm hearing that he's probably looking to go and buy a house close to somewhere in London town, somewhere along those lines.
Ooh.
So he may not be going to Maranello after all.
Oh, the tea is piping hot.
Yes. Clarkson, just maybe give him another microphone and see what comes out.
Because flying from London to Italy takes so long.
Yeah, but like, is Lewis Hamilton literally going to have to like relocate and learn Italian? Like, I assume that's going to be what's going to happen. The Italian, the Ferrari, like...
Pretty sure Fred doesn't know any Italian.
Listen,
still.
Aaron, don't rain on our parade. We want Adrian to be there in Ferrari with Lewis. What a season that would be.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, even if he is moving to London, like, he can still work for Ferrari.
London's somewhere. Anyway, but like, it was like trying to pinpoint saying he might be going to Aston
Jeremy
instead.
Clarkson knows his stuff. I reckon he's got something there.
Yeah.
He managed to keep Top Gear going for such a long time, like, had to pick up something.
Yeah, Richard Hammond. Oh.
Don't forget James May.
Oh, because Richard Hammond's tiny. So you can throw him around like a rag doll.
Do you love how that joke went completely over my head?
It went over everyone's head because it wasn't even funny. Has anyone watched the teaser for the new F1 movie?
Or anything with Brad Pitt, I'm there.
This is the first time hearing of it. I'm normally on top of these
Did you not see that meme that was Sergio like giving him the evils? He just saw Brad Pitt walking out in a suit, in a racing suit, and there's Sergio just looking at him going, what on earth's going on here?
I thought he was getting replaced.
Giving him the eye. That's the new driver, Brad Pitt. Sponsored by BP.
Mm-hmm. I think the facts out of this makes it look quite interesting is Lewis Hamilton is a producer on it. So he's really helped Brad to get in the mindset of a driver, turns what would be common. So yeah, that will be really fun.
I will have to look that up.
I think it's summer 25 that will be out.
Yeah, Apple
TV.
Apple TV.
Maybe that's why, because I'm disappointed in my YouTube algorithm, which is mostly Formula One.
It literally came out the weekend, like on Sunday.
It's on the F1's Instagram page. That's where I saw it.
It's on their YouTube. Why are you not keeping up?
I'm subscribed to their YouTube. Half of my subscriptions are either random YouTubers that I followed when I was a teenager and just haven't unsubscribed, or it's Formula One.
Nah, stop right now, Aaron.
Stop right now. Thank you very much.
Need somebody with a human touch.
Hey, you, always on the run.
Gotta slow it down, baby. Gotta have some fun. And you know what's fun? Our tops and the bottoms of the week. Woo! Jodie, who's your top?
Is that even a question for me? Seriously? Who is my top? LH, the absolute GOAT.
Good top.
I do have a few facts if I want to talk. Can I talk about him?
Oh, you can.
So, of course, I've got a few facts on why he's my top.
I love
the
fact that she's pulled her phone out and here are some facts that I've prepared earlier.
I feel like I need some mother to get through this part now. But
So, first driver to win after their 300th start is Lewis Hamilton. 9 most wins at a single circuit, 15 most podiums at a single circuit, 199 extended most podium records, 104 extended most wins records, and he's the oldest winner of the 21st century, being 39 and 182 days.
wow.
I did love all the memes that came out that's like, and Lewis Hamilton has just set this new record, beating the previous record set by Lewis Hamilton.
I even rang Dad today to let him know I'm back on the pod. And he said, do you want me to have a look in the paper and get some stats? I went, oh, go on, Dad. So off he went. this morning with his brekkie to go and get me some facts from the local paper.
Yeah, I think you've also got one more stat you need to go give us, Jodie, about 3 British drivers.
Yes, so...
Since I got to exit it out of my one, you've not done it.
I pulled the stat out of his script so that you get the spotlight and then you don't even say it.
Well, listen, I thought I'd do it at the end and you could put it behind him, seeing as we missed it. But okay. So here's my other stat. So the first all-British top 3 on an F1 grid since 1968 and the first time ever at Silverstone.
Booyakasha.
I bet you didn't have that stat, did you, Shaun?
No, I did not. I think you're now going to be my stat girl.
I love a stat. I love a figure.
My
I
stat.
believe it was also the first, so FP1 was also the first time that we have had 5 England-born drivers in a single session. So we had Oliver Bearman, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, and George Russell. But Alex Albon was born in England, even though he races under a Thai flag.
Cool.
God, I love the stats.
We're just a stats podcast now.
Great.
We just do small talks. It's just 30 seconds of stats every week.
Stat talk. Oh.
We were going through tops and bottoms. You bottom, Jodie?
See, this is a hard one for me. I was tossing up 2. I think being realistic, if we're talking about it as it is the British Grand Prix, I'm going to say my bottom for the week is for Lando. Not Lando, but for Lando with the McLaren strategy. I think, there was a couple of mistakes made by them with regards to choice of tyre. And as we've already spoken about, pit stop delays. I just think for him, it must be, you could see it, as you said, Shaun, in his post-interview, he looked completely distraught. So for that reason, he would be the bottom of the week and McLaren strategy.
Cool. Shaun, why not you next?
My top, prepare for this one. It's not really a stat. It's just an icon. Hannah Waddingham and her national anthem performance. By golly gosh, I don't know it. I don't care. She was performing it. Hands go up. The red, white, and blue, like stuff going everywhere. And then the flyover, perfect.
One of our friends, Ed, who you've met, Jodie.
I love him. Love you, Ed.
He literally subscribed to KO last night just so he could watch it.
Yeah. Which I've been told him I've got a subscription anyway. He should have just asked me for it. But
Also, I'm sure it would have been on YouTube.
No, it's not up on there at the moment, so it must be a copyright situation. But again, if it's going to get the gays in, bring more Hannah Waddingham. Have her as a guest, commentator.
The excitement in the studio right now is bouncing.
Can she do anything wrong, really? Get her to, interview Lewis Hamilton as an after fact.
Do you want to gasp just one more time?
I love her.
All right, well... Who are your bottoms?
I don't know if it was for this week or it was for last week. I'm getting very confused with the triple header. But I swear Helmut Marko was being interviewed somewhere and God golly, it's the biggest shit stirrer going around in that F1 paddock.
It was the grid walk last night.
He just looks... Well, I shouldn't just bag someone out based on their appearance. But he is, all the stuff that's come out this year about Danny Rick, Sergio Perez... Also being pulled in for his slightly racist remarks about Perez too. He is not a very nice person. And he holds such a strategic position in Red Bull. Gross. Just a gross person.
Everything I see coming out from him or attributed to him is not great.
It just stirs more of the pot, which is not necessary in terms of what Red Bull probably needs right about now. There's a lot of bullshit behind the scenes, but probably best to just suppress it and focus on the race.
Absolutely right.
Oh, well, stuff needs to come out, and especially if it's actually going to be harming people. But he's just a bit of a shit. So he gets my bottom of the week.
Austrian man calls a spade a spade.
But aggressively.
Yeah.
It's
that part of the world.
What was your top?
My top was Lewis Hamilton's celebration. So the kind of, he can do whatever the fuck he likes mentality of him winning, and just everyone from the marshals to the crowd to the rest of the paddock just knew exactly what this win meant, particularly being Silverstone. And everyone felt it. Similar to when we got to see Lando win a few weeks ago, everyone in the paddock felt that win. And I think that was the same sort of feeling this week that it was such an important moment. Last British Grand Prix with Mercedes, he's done so well with them. He's done so much with them. So I think it was just really great to see and how much it meant to him clearly with the way he reacted as well.
And what was your bottom?
The Ferrari and McLaren teams, their cars are outpacing their skills at this point. So they have cars that are championship winning. They have cars that are Grand Prix winning, but they just struggle to find a consistent Grand Prix winning strategy. The drivers maybe are a little bit green as far as being at the front of the pack. And so they're not used to it. Similar to the way we kind of used to see Max Verstappen when he was first starting to win, that he was not as perfect at it as, say, someone like Lewis Hamilton is. So we had Lewis Hamilton on the radio quite a lot complaining about the way that Max was driving. And I think we're starting to see that with McLaren and Ferrari. They just are so out of practice being at the very front of the pack. They're not out of practice being good teams, but they are out of practice being the leaders and winning and making winning decisions. And we're seeing the repercussions of that in so many near misses for particularly McLaren.
Yeah, I would agree with McLaren. I think they've got the package. Everything is set up for them to go and win and to make grounds to get that, Constructors' Championship. I think Ferrari has taken a step backwards in terms of their actual car. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to go and take now the Imola formula and then build it a completely different way in terms of their development and see if they can get back in the race. Well, that brings us to an end of a triple header and a fantastic British Grand Prix. Jodie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me back again. Had the best time.
Oh, I'm glad. You mentioned in our Australian episode that you're most looking forward to Red Bulls having more technical issues and the excitement of the midfield pack. What has changed since then, and what are you looking forward to most for the rest of the season?
I think my opinion's changed on Max Verstappen. I really think him as a driver and him as a personality, I'm warming to him more as a personality on the tracks.
I feel the same about him. Like, I'm enjoying seeing him have passion for driving again.
And maybe it was because we made a bond with those Dutchmen in the Australian finale when we were drinking out the clog. But I do feel like I'm warming to him more on the track. I feel like he's matured and he's more enjoyable to watch. And I think it is nice to see there's more excitement in the race and to see Lewis back up there and to see Mercedes, giving it a real good fighting chance. And I just want to finish off with a little quote from Lewis Hamilton. So he said, "The important thing is how you continue to get up and dig deep, even when you feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel. And seeing as the theme of this is the Spice Girls, always remember, when you're feeling sad and low,
we will take you where you gotta go."
And that's to the top, baby.
I do also like the fact that I'm going to now attribute it to you that Red Bull are having more mechanical issues because they really have since
And I also said about the excitement with the midfield pack, and it's all come to light.
Yeah, I think that midfield pack is kind of fun to watch.
What numbers should I put into the lotto this week?
25?
21.
So much gasping.
Yeah, but we didn't even get it right, but we still gasped at the fact we're in the 20s.
Anyway, it's now time for another break as the drivers and teams head to Hungary for the Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring, because that's a choice of words.
Work.
On the 21st of July. While I've enjoyed the triple header, it has been quite a lot in 3 weeks. So I'm glad for a short break, and I've got a lot of editing to do now. So 2 weeks, and then we're only a couple of weeks away from mid-season break as well.
Aaron, I'm giving you everything. All that joy can bring. This, I swear.
I'm not even halfway through the season, and I swear my blood pressure is getting high.
There is a nurse here. I can check it for you if you'd like.
Oh, no, you wouldn't want to. It's so high. I had to do the 24-hour blood pressure monitor because of him.
Fun.
Well, that's a bold claim.
I don't raise blood pressure.
His favorite moment of me wearing a 24-hour blood pressure monitor was that every half an hour it would go off. And if I moved or spoke or did anything, it would fail and it would go off again 5 minutes later. So every time it started, I would just stop and just drop my arm down and just stop speaking midway through a sentence and just stand there for 30 seconds while the machine went off. And Shaun loved it because that meant for 30 seconds, I could not retaliate. So he just started swearing at me for fun.
Shout out to my friends at Avara Heart Care. I actually told them this story during our strategy session this week. Hope you're listening. And you know what? That's it from us today. Don't forget to subscribe to Let's Talk wherever you get your favourite podcasts. Follow us on social media at Let's Talk Show to stay updated with our latest episodes and behind-the-scenes content. Every boy, every girl, and everyone in between, it's time to spice up your life, and we'll see you next time on Let's Talk.
Let's Talk is hosted, produced, and edited by Shaun, Polidano, and Aaron Best. Our show is an entertainment podcast. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are for entertainment purposes only. Let's Talk is recorded in Paran in Naarm, Melbourne, and we would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Bunurong people of the East Kulin Nation, the traditional owners of the land. We pay our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging.